Tessa Young had it all planned. A 4-year plan, clean, color-coded, top of her class, no distractions, no detours. Her mom said college was about focus. Her boyfriend, Noah, he said he'd wait. And Tessa believed them, believed herself. She believed she could walk into college and stay the same. But then she met him, Hardin Scott. He wasn't supposed to be important. Just one of those tattooed, angry types who thinks the world owes them something. He was loud, careless, infuriating, and so painfully attractive it made her nervous. She told herself she hated him. But if that were true, why did her stomach flip every time he looked her way? Why did it feel like her carefully planned life had just been lit on fire? She had a dorm, she had a future, she had a boyfriend, and in the middle of it all was a boy who read Wuthering Heights and made her feel like no one else ever had. She wasn't ready for this. But no one's ever really ready for the kind of love that ruins you. It started with a party. One of those loud, alcohol-drenched nights where strangers feel like friends and friends feel like strangers. Tessa didn't belong there. She knew it the moment she walked in. Her roommate dragged her along, said she needed to loosen up. But this wasn't her world. Flashing lights, red Solo cups, and smoke curling through the air. And then there he was, Hardin, standing in the corner like he owned the room, dark curls, dark eyes, a smirk that made her feel exposed. He didn't speak to her right away. He watched, like she was some puzzle he already knew the answer to. And when he finally walked over, he didn't say hi. He said, truth or dare. She should have walked away. But something about him pulled her in, something dangerous. Dare, she said. And with one word, she set it all in motion. Kiss me, he said. It was supposed to be a game. Just a joke, just a kiss. But when his lips touched hers, the world shifted. It wasn't just attraction. It wasn't just a kiss. It was him. And for a second, it felt like gravity had forgotten every rule except one. Fall. The room disappeared. The music stopped. It was just him and her, and the kind of kiss that didn't ask permission. It shattered. It dared her to feel something real. And when he pulled away, he just smiled. Like it meant nothing. Like she didn't just lose a piece of herself. She told herself it was stupid. Just a game. But her heart was already keeping score. And she was already losing. He wasn't just a boy. He was a warning wrapped in mystery. Hardin Scott. Everyone knew his name on campus, spoken in whispers with a mix of awe and fear. Girls chased him. Guys avoided him. Professors tolerated him because they had to. But no one knew him. Not really. He'd walk into class late, always. Books under one arm, that same black hoodie like armor. And then he'd quote Austen or Orwell like it was nothing, like brilliance bored him. He had depth. But he hid it. Like emotion was weakness. Like caring made him vulnerable. And Tessa? She couldn't figure him out. 1 minute he was cruel, cold, sharp enough to cut. The next he was staring at her like she was the only person in the room. And then gone like it never happened. He played with emotions like a game of chess. Always 3 moves ahead. But there were cracks. Little ones. Like how his jaw tightened when she talked about her boyfriend. Or how he quoted Wuthering Heights with too much pain in his voice to be pretending. He said love was fake. Said commitment was weakness. But when she looked in his eyes, she saw something else. Something broken. Something afraid. And deep down, she wondered if he pushed people away because he didn't believe anyone would stay. But that didn't stop her. She wanted to understand him. She wanted to know why he was like this. Why he looked at her like she mattered, then turned away like she didn't. Why he built walls so high, and then dared her to climb them. He was chaos in human form. But she didn't run. Not yet, because sometimes the most dangerous thing is a boy who doesn't believe he deserves to be loved. Noah had been there since forever. He was the boy her mother loved. The one who brought flowers, opened doors, said all the right things. He was safe. And safe had always been enough. Until it wasn't. At first it was subtle. She stopped texting back right away. She stopped mentioning his name around Hardin. She told herself it was nothing. But then came the day she found herself comparing them. The way Noah kissed her like a promise. Versus the way Hardin kissed her like a threat. Noah listened. But Hardin challenged. Noah adored her. But Hardin saw her. And that terrified her more than anything. She started hiding things. Skipping calls. Telling Noah she was tired when she wasn't. Lying by omission is still lying. And every time she looked at her phone and saw Noah's name flash across the screen, she felt like a stranger holding someone else's life. She was changing. And the worst part? She didn't want to stop it. Because when she was around Hardin, she felt awake. Like she'd been sleepwalking her whole life and only now realized what it meant to feel everything all at once. Anger, attraction, obsession, confusion. With Noah, there was peace. With Hardin, there was fire. And fire doesn't whisper. It roars. It burns everything in its path. And deep down she knew, you don't cheat with someone you don't already want. And if that was true, what did it mean for everything she thought she believed in? There's a moment, just before everything changes, when you know what's about to happen, and you let it. Not because it's right, but because it's inevitable. That's how it felt with Hardin. 1 second she was arguing with him, again, screaming at him for being arrogant, toxic, impossible. And the next, his mouth was on hers. Like he couldn't stand to be apart. Like he hated her, but needed her more than oxygen. It was desperate, aggressive, messy. And yet, it felt like the most honest moment of her entire life. He didn't just kiss her. He consumed her. Hands in her hair, lips at her neck. Her breath caught somewhere between panic and pleasure. And when he touched her, It was like he wanted to destroy her. And maybe she wanted to be destroyed. Because when his hands were on her skin, there were no rules. No plans. No right or wrong. Just him. She forgot about Noah. She forgot about everything she thought she was. In that moment, she was just his. And after, he didn't speak. He lit a cigarette, looked at the ceiling. And she stared at his back, feeling everything and nothing all at once. Was she just another girl in his bed? Or did he feel it too? The pull, the pain, the power of what just happened between them? He didn't say. He never said. And in the silence, the guilt began to settle. The reality she had just betrayed someone who loved her, for someone who might never love her back. But the worst part wasn't the guilt. It was that she'd do it again. In a heartbeat. At first, the silence was part of the thrill. The mystery, the moodiness, the way he'd disappear for days, then show up like no time had passed. With that crooked smirk, that husky voice, the pull was addictive. But the more she gave, the less he offered. Tessa started asking questions. And Hardin? He started building walls. He changed when things got too real. Cold one minute, jealous the next. He said he didn't care. But he watched her with other guys like she belonged to him. And she hated how much she liked it. She started to notice things. The anger he never controlled. The drinking, the way he'd lash out and then vanish. The phone he never let her touch. When she asked about his past, he shut down. Or worse, he made her feel crazy for even asking. It doesn't matter, he'd say. You don't want to know me like that. But she did. She needed to. Because loving someone without knowing who they are? That's not love. That's blind faith. And Tessa was starting to go blind. He'd tell her half-truths. Apologize with his eyes. Touch her like she was the only thing keeping him alive. But then the darkness would return. And so would the lies. It felt like falling in love with a storm. You know it's going to hurt. But part of you wants to be shattered by it. Because maybe, just maybe, if you break together, you'll heal together. But what if the person you're trying to save is the one sinking you? She thought the worst was behind them. The fights, the jealousy, the fear of falling too deep. But she had no idea. The truth didn't come in screams. It came in silence. A whisper behind her back, a cruel laugh in the hallway. She walked into a room and the air shifted. Eyes on her. Pity. Shame. And then, she heard it. A voice she recognized. A game she didn't know she was playing. A bet. A dare. I told you I could make her fall in love with me. And I did. Her heart stopped. She couldn't breathe. Couldn't move. Every kiss. Every touch. Every look. Was it all a joke? Her mind screamed no. But the truth was screaming yes. He used her. Broke her open just to prove he could. And when she found him, standing there like nothing had happened, all she could say was any of it real? He didn't answer. Just looked at her with those hollow, unreadable eyes. And that silence? It was louder than any lie. She ran. But the damage followed. Because you don't just unlove someone, you carry them. Even when they drop you. And in the quiet, in the pieces she was left holding, she realized he didn't just break her heart. He rewrote it. And now, she didn't know who she was without him. You don't just walk away from that kind of betrayal. You burn. And Tessa burned. Not just with heartbreak, but with rage. She smashed the framed photo of them. Threw his hoodie in the trash. Deleted every message, blocked his number. Pretended it never happened. But her hands were still shaking. Her heart still stuttered every time she saw someone who looked like him. She hated him. God, she hated him. For making her feel like she mattered. For making her believe it was real. For ruining safe. For turning love into a weapon and leaving her bleeding. But hate? It's not the opposite of love. It's what's left over when love turns toxic. And deep down, she still wanted to know why. Why her? Why pretend? Was there ever a moment that meant something to him? Or was she just a game from the start? And just when she was starting to find her footing again, just when she'd told herself she was done, he came back. Not with apologies. Not with flowers or speeches. Just him, standing outside her dorm in the rain, hair soaked, voice quiet, saying her name like it was the only thing keeping him alive. She should have slammed the door. Should have screamed. Should have told him to rot in the mess he made. But instead, she froze. Because even now, after the lies, after the bet, after the ruin, her heart still wanted him. And that terrified her more than anything. Everyone told her to walk away. Her friends, her mother, her own reflection. He's toxic. He doesn't deserve you. He'll never change. And they were probably right. But love doesn't listen to logic. It listens to memory. To moments. To every stolen glance, every soft apology whispered against trembling skin. So when Hardin showed up again, with broken eyes and blood on his knuckles, telling her he missed her like it was a confession, she didn't believe him. But she felt him. He wasn't just a boy anymore. He was an ache. A habit. A scar that didn't want to heal. She wanted to scream. To shake him. To hurt him the way he'd hurt her. But all she could do was whisper, "Why did you do it?" And his voice so raw, so wrecked. "Because I didn't think someone like you could ever love someone like me." And just like that, she broke again. Because how do you hate someone who's broken in the exact same places you are? They tried again. Not because it was smart. Not because it was right. But because they couldn't not. Every fight was louder. Every kiss was deeper. Every moment together felt like drowning. But somehow it was the only place they could breathe. They were fire and gasoline. Chaos and comfort. And maybe Maybe that's what love is for some people. Not soft, not easy, but real, messy, dangerous, unforgettable. And even if it left her bruised, she didn't want to forget. Not him. Not this. Not them. They say time heals all wounds. But time isn't a healer. It's a witness. It watches you fall apart, then watches you try to put the pieces back together. After everything, she wasn't the same girl who walked into college. Nor was she the same girl who thought she could tame a storm like Hardin. She learned that love isn't always a fairy tale. Sometimes it's pain dressed up as passion, and sometimes the person who breaks you is the one you want to hold the most. But the cracks they left, they never fully healed. Because behind every apology, every late-night text, every whispered, "I'm sorry," there's always a secret waiting to slip out. Like the envelope she found months later, sealed tight, with words that weren't meant for her eyes, words that promised there was more to the story, or the phone calls he took at midnight, whispered conversations in empty rooms, that left her heart pounding with questions she dared not ask. And the new girl on campus, the one with a secret smile and a dangerous past, who watches Hardin like a hawk waiting to strike. After everything, she realized, love might break you, but the real battle is what comes after. And for her and Hardin, that battle was just beginning.